at number 38, up 2 from 40 the previous week on my fantasy playlist, November 29th, 1986. It is Kansas. All I Wanted, a Lost 45 by Kansas. Kansas, best known for Carry On Wayward Son. That was in late 76, early 77. Dust in the Wind was another favorite by Kansas. But a lot of people liked that record back in the spring of 78. Point of No Return in 1977, early 78. And there was also People of the South Wind. You know, I keep coming back to that song by Kansas, People of the South Wind, back in the summer of 79. Does anybody remember that song? Nice record by Kansas, but not one of their biggest hits. Went to number 23. And that's the point. The hits started to wear down a little bit in the 80s. Their biggest hit in the 80s was Play the Game Tonight. That was in the summer of 1982. That went to number 17, but a lot of people have forgotten about that record. They had a lot of minor hits in the 80s. Well, not a lot, but maybe about a half dozen minor hits in the 80s. Kansas did. They broke up in 1983. This was after a tour that basically just flopped. Poor attendance. They had just lost a lot of momentum. Kerry Livgren, the guy who wrote most of their memorable songs, the original guitarist of Kansas, he left the band. He formed a Christian rock and roll group called, did I say rock and roll or rock and roll? Rock and roll. When I was a DJ on a radio station years ago, I used to say rock and roll, and the guy who critiqued my air check, he said, "You got this rock and roll. Say roll. Don't say roll." So I have to catch myself just saying that sometimes. Where was I? Kerry Livgren. He formed a Christian rock band called AD. Kerry Livgren, formerly of Kansas, put out a gospel album, a solo album. It was called Seeds of Change. It was on the gospel charts for a year and a half. This particular record was written, All I Wanted. It sounds like a foreigner record. It doesn't sound like a Kansas record. This is quite a departure from Carry On Wayward Son or even Dust in the Wind. Pretty heavy on the keyboards, this record by Kansas. Steve Walsh on lead vocals. He co-wrote this song with Steve Morse, who was, after Kerry Livgren left the group, Steve Morse filled in. He came in as a lead guitarist of Kansas, Steve Morse did. And Steve Morse, formerly of the Dixie Dregs, commercial air pilot too before he joined Kansas. So here it is. Power ballad. That's what they called this song back in the day, a power ballad. And let me explain what a power ballad is. Back in the 80s, this record was thrown out a lot, particularly in the particularly towards the late 80s. A power ballad is basically a slow record, a lovey-dovey record, a snuggy-up record that was performed by a hard rock band, particularly a heavy metal band, a hair metal band like Poison, Cinderella, and Warrant. But this is Kansas, classic rock. All I Wanted at number 38. Fancy playlist, November 29th, 1986.